5 years ago is a long time ago in terms of what's happened in the state, both nationally and in terms of the national financial issues within the financial industry. But other things have changed as well. We went with Senate Bill 221, and we are now entering this age of alternative energy as a future for the state in terms of development. What are the issues that need to be dealt with relative to that weren't even on the table 5 years ago when we were talking about the automotive industry? We talked about a whole bunch of other things that were here that aren't here anymore. Secondarily, we were talking about an income tax cut that was part of it. It wasn't really key to the economic development side of this proposal, but was there at a time when the economy was better. Now, as Dan was pointing out, it just doesn't make sense to continue to cut in a time like this. So I think it needs to be addressed.
We've seen in the past budget crisis, although there hasn't been one this bad, that governments cut and cut and cut, and then we get to crunch time and there's a public outcry, and the governor and the two leaders get together and say, public has spoken, we heard, we've got a tax increase. Do you think that this government and these two leaders are so dug in against the tax increase now that they can't change their minds?
I think that's certainly what led me to talk to my colleagues about saying, let's make sure that they consider it, but we're certainly hearing it, and we think that if the voice is raised, that perhaps the three of them will come up with an option.
You know, I may disagree with my friend and colleague, Representative Hagan. I do like to work when I came bipartisanly, and I'd like to think that we can all acknowledge when maybe we make mistakes. And I would like to think that some of my Republican friends might be willing to say maybe it wasn't right to do in 2005, and even if it was, maybe it's not right now. And can you show where giving some people making over $250,000 a year, $8,000 or $10,000 a year tax cuts have created the kind of jobs that we're going to lose in terms of the cuts in any of these state programs, whether it's from libraries, prisons, mental health facilities, on down the line. The amount of cuts that are added up here, do you think that many jobs have been created by that tax cut for people over $250,000? I'd be real hard pressed to have anybody be able to prove anything near that. So I think it's just acknowledging, just common sense. Grammar, common sense needs to apply here.
And I'll tell you too, Jim, that I think it would be irresponsible if I didn't speak up and say something, at least with my history in the legislature. Whether the cynicism that you have and many voters have as well about pushing to the envelope until the very end and say, okay, we're going to give a tax increase is something that you think is out there. We don't, and that's why we're standing in front of you. We want to make sure our constituents know. We want to make sure the governor's office knows in a very kind way, and the rest of our colleagues know that we believe very strongly that there has to be a different way of funding these programs that are being cut. We understand there will be cuts. We understand that there's just no way unless you just raise taxes to recover everything. And we're willing to do that, but we're not willing to sit silently by in good conscience and allow this to happen to many of our cities and many of our people, many of our constituents, and many of the people we would help the most.
So you're saying you don't see the government changing its mind?
I do not see the government changing its mind unless, of course, unless we fill the lawns with the lawn out there with 10,000, 50,000 people. At this particular juncture, I don't see it.
And I don't know if that's the case, but and I think that's why we're here. Look, at the end of the day, I want to vote for the budget that is as good as possible, the best we can get under the current political situation. And for me, that means I want to see more revenue in this budget and less cuts. And I'm hoping that our message and other folks out there are starting to resonate with the folks that were in this meeting and deciding.
Would the board you say that you want no votes against this budget if it goes to the
I'm not going there. When I say that,
Because there's not a budget before us.
but if the governor's proposal should be placed before you, would you be no votes?
It depends on what the alternative is. If the alternative is that the Senate won't go along with any revenue increases, won't go along with any DLCs, and we're looking at 30% cuts across the board, then, like I said, I'm looking for the best available budget I can get out of this thing. So I'm not a no on it.
Even when these groups are out there, the libraries and the different groups that come out here and protest the cuts, even when they're out there and reporters go around talking to them and say, well, do you want higher taxes? Oftentimes those very same people are saying, no, I want them to cut things. There's this waste over here and there's a waste over here. We can take care of this. What do you say to that? I mean, when you've got a significant portion of people who want the services who are saying, we don't want to pay higher taxes at the same time.
I would say that there's, I think we're bare bones right now. I mean, we are bare bones in terms of services we provide to the state. Look, the cuts are just, the cuts are huge. I don't think we can go any lower than where we're at right now. So I don't think there is any waste. If there is waste, it's minimal. Look, no one is perfect. There's no bureaucracy in the world that's perfect. No government in the world is perfect. But I got to tell you, I think that this governor runs a pretty tight ship and is doing the best with what we have and want to provide services that we should be providing. But we should be providing more, and going below and part of the where we're at is not good.
And I would just add, I think that people have to understand that when you want services, you got to pay for them. And I think that we have done, and the governor's done a good job of trying to reduce waste and make serious cuts that we have to do no matter what we propose, and any of these options are on the table and would be taken under consideration. There will still be cuts. It's how serious and how far do you want to go? How far beyond to the bone, to amputation do you go? I think that we also have to recognize, it's a little bit about language. I think it's a mistake to say if you freeze a tax cut, again, you could argue 2005, maybe that made sense, maybe it didn't. We didn't think it made sense at the time, but it certainly doesn't make sense now. And I don't feel obligated to stick to a vote that was taken in 2005 when it's fiscally irresponsible in 2009, and nobody can make a good case for it. Nobody can show me that it makes sense to keep those tax cuts.
Joe, you're right about one thing. The people that I have talked to have said often, just keep cutting. And then I'll say to them, well, what about if we take back the tax cut that's given to you over the last 4 years? Every single person said, what tax cut? Every single person.
I don't even know they got a tax cut.
What tax cut? And I think that's the significance of what you're seeing, that we're saying to you today, is that most people don't even know there's a tax cut involved, and they don't know what the cuts will be as well. So all we're trying to do is to show exactly how this will have an impact, how many jobs will be lost, how people will be impacted in nursing homes or in their homes. I mean, we have a whole litany of those things that we have to think about.
Well, but the reality is, there's the message that some of those cuts have impacted a lot of counties, a lot of people already. Others don't even know that impact. It's kind of below the radar to a lot of people. And we've got to get that, we've got to do a better job about getting that story out. That those $2 billion worth of cuts that have already been made have had a dramatic impact on children's services and protective services and things like that in counties that can't afford this. You add on top what is potentially coming, and it will be devastating.
What impact are next year's, of course, with the board elections having on this year's budget